Ethan never expected his life to change in such a strange and unforgettable way. He was an ordinary boy who lived in a small apartment while working and studying. His days were filled with simple things like books, part-time shifts, and quiet evenings. Nothing about his routine ever felt unusual. The only surprising thing had been getting a housemate when he needed to share rent. That housemate was a girl named Claire. She seemed kind, polite, and always carried herself with calm grace. From the start, Ethan thought Claire was just another student who liked her privacy. She kept her room locked most of the time and spoke very little about her past. They ate meals at different times and rarely shared more than small talk. Still, Ethan found her presence comforting. There was something peaceful about the way she moved, the way her voice always sounded soft and sure. He never asked questions because he did not want to seem rude. To him, she was just a quiet girl who wanted her space. One evening, everything changed. Ethan came back home earlier than usual. His shift at work had ended quickly and he carried a bag of groceries in one hand, pushed open the apartment door and walked toward the living room, expecting silence. Instead, he noticed a soft glow spilling out from under Claire's door. He frowned, wondering if she had left a lamp on. Without thinking, he moved closer. His hand brushed against the knob, and before he could stop himself, the door opened. What Ethan saw inside froze him where he stood. The air in the room shimmered with light that looked almost unreal, as though the walls themselves were alive. Claire was kneeling in front of a strange object on the floor. It was silver and round, and faint symbols glowed across its surface. She touched the object with steady hands, and the light grew stronger, filling the room with soft blue color. Her face looked different in that glow, her eyes shining in a way Ethan had never seen before. For a moment, Ethan thought he was dreaming. He blinked several times, yet the picture did not fade. Claire looked up and noticed him. Instead of shock or anger, her expression remained calm. She rose slowly to her feet, the silver light wrapping around her like a quiet crown. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but no words came at first. Ethan's heart raced. His grocery bag slipped from his hand and landed on the floor with a dull sound. He tried to form a question, but nothing came out. The silence between them stretched long, broken only by the faint hum of the glowing object. At last, Claire spoke, her voice steady and quiet. "You were not supposed to see this." Ethan swallowed hard, his throat dry. "What? What is this?" She held his gaze for a long moment, then sighed. Her eyes softened and she stepped closer. "This is a part of who I am," she said. "I wanted to keep it hidden. I thought it was safer if you never knew." Ethan shook his head, confused. "I don't understand. Who are you, Claire? You're not just a normal girl, are you?" Claire's shoulders lowered, as though a great weight pressed on her. "No, I am not just what you thought. I belong to something greater, but I promise you, Ethan, I am still human. Everything you see now is part of a truth that has been kept secret for generations." The words felt heavy, filled with meaning Ethan could not grasp. His mind raced, searching for sense in what he had seen. The girl he shared an apartment with, the one who smiled quietly and read books at night, was standing before him like a figure out of legend. Ethan wanted to turn away, but his feet would not move. Instead, he looked at her closely. Despite the glow, despite the mystery, she still looked like Claire. The same calm girl, the same quiet strength in her face. And yet, something about her now seemed endless, as if she carried the weight of forgotten centuries. The silence returned, and in that silence Ethan understood one thing. His life would never be ordinary again. Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, his mind spinning with questions he could not shape into words. Claire, calm as ever, stepped away from the glowing object and placed her hand gently on the wall. At once the light dimmed, and the strange device became silent, almost as if it had never been alive at all. The room looked ordinary again, though the air still felt heavy with something unspoken. Claire looked at him, her eyes steady and filled with quiet strength. "You were not ready to know," she said softly. "But now that you have seen, I cannot hide it anymore." Ethan shook his head. His voice came out low and unsteady. "What are you talking about? What was that thing? Why do you have it here?" Claire walked past him and closed the door gently, as though keeping the secret inside. She leaned against the wall, her expression calm but touched with sadness. "It is part of my duty," she said. "I was not placed here by chance. carry something that belongs to the past, something that must be guarded until the right time comes. Her words made Ethan feel smaller than he had ever felt. He thought about the months they had lived together. She had washed dishes, folded laundry, laughed at the few jokes he dared to tell, and walked quietly through their apartment like any other person. Yet now she spoke like someone carrying a weight far greater than anything he had ever known. "I don't understand," Ethan said again, his voice weak. Claire's eyes softened. She walked closer, and for the first time he noticed a weariness in her face, as if she had been holding this secret for far too long. "There are people in this world who watch over the rest of us," she said. "Not kings or queens in the way you read about in books, but leaders chosen to carry wisdom, to guard against dangers that most never see. I'm part of that line. My place here is not random. I was hidden in plain sight so that I could stay safe until the day I am called to step forward." The words felt unreal, yet Ethan could not doubt her. Every part of him wanted to call it impossible, but the memory of that glowing light burned too brightly in his mind. "You mean you are some kind of queen?" he asked quietly. Claire nodded, though her face remained calm. "Yes, but not in the way you imagine. A queen is nothing without her people. I am still human. I still feel, laugh, and cry. But my life has been chosen for something greater. And when that time comes, I must not turn away." Ethan looked at her, trying to read her face. For a moment he saw not just the girl who shared his home, but someone far older, as if history itself lived in her eyes. He felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. "Why tell me now?" he asked. "Because you walked in," Claire answered simply. "You saw the truth. And once the truth is seen, it cannot be unseen. Now you are part of it, whether you wish to be or not." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to deny it, to pretend it had never happened, but he knew that was impossible. The secret was now his as much as hers. He thought about what this would mean for his life. Nothing could return to the way it was. Claire watched him closely, then placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "Do not be afraid," she said. "You are not alone in this. If you choose to walk away, I will not stop you. But if you stay, you will see a side of this world few ever know. You will understand what it means to be human in a way most people never dream of." Ethan felt her words sink into him. They scared him, yet they also stirred something deep inside. A quiet part of him wanted to stay, to see what she meant, to learn the truth hidden behind her calm smile. He took a deep breath and nodded. "I'll stay," he said. Claire gave him a small smile, one that carried both relief and sadness. "Then your life will never be the same again," she whispered. Ethan knew she was right. Whatever path lay ahead, it had already begun. The next morning, Ethan woke with a restless mind. Sleep had come in broken pieces, filled with dreams of blue light and Claire's calm voice. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her standing in that glow, her words echoing inside him. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, wondering if any of it had been real. But when he heard Claire moving in the kitchen, the memory returned in full. It had not been a dream. He stepped out quietly, watching her prepare tea. She looked the same as always, wearing a simple shirt, her hair tied back. Yet something about her felt different now, as if the air around her carried a secret weight. Ethan wanted to speak but could not find the right words. She looked up at him, and her expression was kind. "Good morning," she said gently. Ethan nodded, forcing a smile. "Morning." They sat at the table together, an unusual change from their usual separate routines. Claire poured him a cup of tea and folded her hands neatly on the table. For a moment they sat in silence, the only sound the faint ticking of the clock. Finally, Ethan broke it. "Last night, everything you said, it wasn't just a story, was it?" Claire shook her head slowly. "No, Ethan. It was the truth. I never wanted you to be part of it. But now that you know, I cannot take it back." Ethan leaned forward, his voice quiet. "So what does it mean? What happens now?" Her eyes held his, calm and clear. "It means you carry knowledge that must be protected. The device you saw is a record of history passed down through my family. It holds memories, lessons, and warnings from those who came before us. If it is lost, much of what humanity has learned will be lost as well. My duty is to guard it until the day I am called to lead. That time may be soon." Ethan listened, his chest tight with unease. But why hide here? Why live like this? With me, like everything is normal? Claire gave a small smile, though her eyes carried sadness, because normal life is a shield. People do not look for queens in small apartments. Here, I could walk unnoticed, learn how ordinary people live, and stay safe from those who would silence me. You were part of that safety? I never thought you would see what I kept hidden. Ethan's hands tightened around his cup. He wanted to ask more, but struggled to keep his thoughts clear. And these people who would silence you? Are they real? Are they out there right now? Claire's expression grew serious. She nodded. Yes. There are those who fear the return of a queen. They believe that if the line ends, they can control what is left. They move quietly, but they are always watching. The weight of her words pressed down on him. He looked at her, trying to see the girl he thought he knew. But all he saw was someone stronger, someone carrying more than he could understand. And me, he asked softly, what am I supposed to do? Claire reached across the table and placed her hand over his. You do not have to do anything, but you are already part of this. You saw the truth, and that cannot be undone. If you choose to stand with me, you may find yourself in danger. But you may also find a purpose greater than you imagined. Ethan stared at her hand on his. For the first time, he realized how steady she always was, how her presence never wavered. She had lived with this secret all along, and yet she still laughed, still carried herself with kindness. He felt something stir inside him, a mixture of fear and respect. He nodded slowly. I don't know what I can do, but I won't walk away. Claire's smile returned, faint but warm, is all I ask. Stay close, listen, and learn. The rest will come when it is time. The day passed quietly, but Ethan felt the weight of her words with every moment. When night fell again, he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, knowing his life was tied to something vast and unseen. And though he was afraid, a part of him felt alive in a way he had never known before. The days that followed were quiet, but Ethan felt the tension rising like a storm in the distance. Claire continued her routines, but he noticed small changes in her behavior. She checked the windows more often, listened closely to sounds in the hallway, and moved with sharper caution. Ethan knew she was expecting something, though she had not yet said what. One evening, as the city outside grew dark, Ethan sat in the living room reading when he heard a faint knock on the door. Claire froze instantly. She put a finger to her lips, signaling him to stay silent. The knock came again, louder this time, followed by a man's voice. Claire, it's time. Ethan's chest tightened. Claire stood slowly, her face calm, but her eyes alert. She walked to the door and spoke without opening it. Should not be here. The voice outside answered firmly. You cannot hide forever. They already know. You must move now. Before Ethan could process the words, the sound of boots echoed in the hallway. More than one person was out there. His heart pounded as the doorknob rattled. Claire turned to him, her voice urgent but steady. Stay behind me. The door burst open, and 3 men dressed in black stepped inside. Their movements were sharp, their eyes fixed on Claire. They carried no weapons that Ethan could see, but their presence was heavy with threat. One of them spoke. You should have stayed hidden. Now it ends here. Claire stood tall, her voice clear. It will not end tonight. The men moved forward and everything turned into chaos. Claire reacted faster than Ethan had ever seen. She pushed one man aside with sudden force, sending him crashing into the wall. Another lunged toward her, but she twisted and struck his arm, knocking him down. The third rushed forward, only to find Claire standing firm, her presence unshaken. Ethan, trembling, grabbed a chair and swung it at one of the men who tried to rise again. The wood cracked, and the man stumbled back, groaning. Ethan's hand shook, but he held his ground. The struggle filled the room with noise and movement. Lamps fell, glass shattered, and the air filled with dust. Ethan fought clumsily, but his determination kept him standing. Claire, graceful and strong, moved as if she had been trained for this moment her whole life. Finally, the men retreated toward the door. One glared at Claire with hate in his eyes. This is not over. Others will come. You cannot escape. Claire stepped forward, her voice cold. I do not run. Tell them that. The men vanished into the hallway, their footsteps fading. Silence fell heavy in the apartment, broken only by Ethan's ragged breathing. The room was a mess. Furniture overturned and shards of glass scattered across the floor. Ethan leaned against the wall, his chest rising and falling fast. What? What just happened? Claire looked at him, her face calm, though her breathing was quick. They found us sooner than I hoped. They are part of the ones who fear my return. They will not stop until I am silenced. Ethan stared at her, his fear mixing with shock. They were ready to kill you, she nodded. Yes, and they will try again. Ethan swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Blow. Claire walked to the fallen chair and set it upright, her movements slow but steady. We prepare. And when the time comes, we face them. I am not alone, Ethan. There are others who stand with me, men who have trained for years to protect the crown. When the signal is given, they will come. Tonight was only the beginning. Ethan's thoughts raced. He wanted to run, to hide, to pretend none of this was real. But as he looked at Claire, standing strong despite the chaos, he felt something deeper. She was not just his housemate. She was someone who carried a destiny, and now he was bound to it. He nodded slowly, his voice low but firm. Then I'll stand with you. Claire's eyes softened, and for the first time since the fight began, she smiled. You already have. The night stretched long, filled with silence, and the faint sound of the city beyond their broken windows. Ethan knew sleep would not come easily. He had stepped into a world of danger and duty, and there was no turning back. The night after the fight felt longer than any night Ethan had ever known. The apartment was quiet, yet every sound outside made him tense. Kept looking at the door, half expecting it to burst open again. Claire sat at the table with a calm face, her hands folded as if she had been waiting for something. Ethan could not understand how she remained so steady, but her strength gave him a strange sense of peace. When the sun rose, Claire stood and looked out the window. Her voice was soft but firm. It is time. We cannot stay here anymore. Ethan moved beside her. Where will we go? She turned to him, her eyes steady. There is a place where my people gather. The men who swore to protect me will meet us there. It is not far, but we must be careful. Once we reach them, we will not be alone. Ethan nodded, felt nervous but also ready. The decision had already been made the moment he told her he would stand with her. Together they packed what little they needed and left the apartment behind. The city looked the same as always, but Ethan now saw it differently. Every stranger passing by could be a threat. Every shadow felt alive. Claire walked with quiet grace, her steps steady, as though she had walked this path 1,000 times before. Ethan followed close, his eyes moving across every corner. After hours of walking, they reached the edge of the city. Fields stretched ahead, and in the distance stood an old stone building that looked forgotten. Claire led him toward it without hesitation. As they approached, the doors opened and several men stepped out. They looked ordinary, dressed in simple clothes, but their posture was firm and their eyes sharp. One of them bowed his head to Claire. "My queen," he said softly. Ethan felt the words strike deep. He had heard her call herself part of a line, but now hearing someone speak the word aloud made it real in a way nothing else had. Claire did not flinch. She simply nodded. "We were attacked," she told them. "They will come again stronger. We must be ready." The men exchanged serious looks but did not hesitate. They welcomed her inside, and Ethan followed. The building was larger than it appeared from outside. Rooms stretched beyond the entrance, filled with maps, books, and supplies. It was clear this place had been prepared for years, waiting for the day Claire would come. That evening, Ethan sat in a corner while Claire spoke with the men. He listened as they discussed plans, strategies, and warnings of those who wanted her silenced. Their voices were calm, but filled with urgency. Ethan realized then that this was not just her fight, it was something greater, something that touched the future of everyone. When the meeting ended, Claire came to sit beside him. She looked tired, yet her eyes still carried the same steady light. "Do you regret staying?" she asked softly. Ethan shook his head. "No, I was afraid, but I could never walk away. You carry too much alone. Someone has to stand with you." Her smile was faint but warm. "Then you are braver than you believe." That night, Ethan could not sleep. He lay awake, listening to the silence of the stone walls, thinking about everything that had happened. He thought about the first day he met Claire, how quiet and ordinary she had seemed. Now he knew the truth. She was more than a housemate, more than a friend. She was a queen, and he was part of her journey. Days turned into weeks as Ethan and Claire lived among the men. Training began each morning. Ethan learned basic skills, simple ways to defend himself, and how to move with awareness. He was not strong like the others, but he tried, and Claire always encouraged him. Strength is not only in the body, she reminded him, it is also in the heart. One evening, as the sun set in golden light, Claire stood before them all, her voice carried across the room steady and sure. "The time has come," she said. "We will not hide anymore. We will rise, not with fear, but with hope. Humanity deserves a future built on unity, not silence." The men bowed their heads in respect, and Ethan felt his chest swell with pride. He knew the path ahead would not be easy. There would be danger, battles, and trials beyond what he could imagine. But he also knew that he was no longer just an ordinary boy. He had chosen to stand at the side of a queen, and that choice had given his life meaning. As night fell, he looked at Claire and saw her not just as the girl who once shared his apartment, but as the leader who would guide them all. And in that moment, Ethan understood what had left him speechless the first time he saw her secret. It was not only the light or the mystery, it was the reminder that humanity itself carried greatness, and he was now a part of it.